Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning into Data Demands podcast, where we connect the dots between MarTech and marketing landscape. Stay tuned to MarTech 360 as we explore key strategies for your marketing success.
Hello, my name is Samarth and I welcome you to another MarTech 360 podcast. In this episode, we decode marketing technologies complexities with industry top experts. MarTech 360 is more than just a media platform. It's a community of over 2 million marketing professionals who rely on us for our expert analysis, market intelligence, and actionable advice. If you're passionate about intersection of technology and marketing, this episode is a must-listen podcast because thrilled to have Zahra Ziba, Director of Global Sales Strategy at Pipedrive, a leading sales CRM and pipeline management platform. Zahra is responsible for crafting and executing sales strategies that drive revenue growth across the global markets for Pipedrive. Her expertise lies in high-impact sales operations, data-driven decision-making, and customer-centric approach to optimize the entire sales process. Known for her ability to blend innovative thinking and practical execution, Zahra consistently drives success in high-growth environment and has an infectious energy. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Zahra to see in case you would like to add anything that I may have missed.
No, thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation. Long description about me. I'm energetic indeed, but you are too. So thank you. Thank you for that. No, I don't think you missed anything about me. I'm super excited to be here today, explain how Pipedrive was founded, what we do for our customers, and what we believe sets a tone for our potential customers. So super excited to be here and with you today.
Absolutely perfect. You set the tone, for to kickstart our discussion. So Pipedrive has made a very impressive mark on the entire CRM landscape, and it is clear that the company approach resonates with sales teams across the globe who value simplicity and ease of use applications. With so many CRM tools available today, a platform design and philosophy defines its success. Needless to say, Pipedrive has focused on building a CRM that truly serves users by uncomplicating their daily tasks, which is a refreshing approach in the overly filled, complicated tools. Probably this would be my first question to understand, like to deep dive into the focus on simplicity and the sales design, sales driven design strategy, which differentiates Pipedrives from other platforms. Probably a quick story on Pipedrive's evolution might help us here.
Yeah, so when we think about Pipedrive that is in the market for the past 14 years, the way that Pipedrive came into the market was because of salespeople. So our founders worked in sales, and one of them was actually selling door to door. And at the end of the day, what they used to have is post-its that they would put it in a wall and then just go over, hey, I have this opportunity that I need to follow up. I have this one, and I need to make sure that I don't forget to contact that one. So when they looked at that wall, all fill in with post-its, they were just like, there has to be an easier way to do this. And that's exactly where Pipedrive came from. It was for the focus of salespeople, but thinking on how can we help small businesses grow, not enterprise level of companies, but mostly the ones that were going door to door or that they were launching businesses. They were new to the market, and a lot of times when you're new, you still don't know what is the best approach and when should you follow up. So that's where Pipedrive came, and its uniqueness came from that. It's a clear definition of Pipedrive is here to help solve small businesses' growth and pains to drive more sales to them. So that's basically where it came from, which is kind of a fun story to have, like post-its all
Great story. Yeah, right. No, because modern day problems need modern day solutions, and with so much of global impact that is the entire world is having, and the markets are not particular to any region. Now we are talking about the global markets. Probably somebody in Sydney needs an application, and that really solves his purpose or resonates well with him. And could be anywhere, somebody in China, somebody in US. So probably we are serving a global audience. And that design philosophy of keeping it simple, sales driven design really helps and solves a lot of problem of the sales guys, because at the end of the day, sales is not an easy job.
No.
um, yeah, absolutely. So, and specifically on the pipe drive, what are the upcoming strategic initiatives or innovations do think are taking shape as we speak in the CRM landscape? Because, the problems usually are the same when you're trying to solve one problem, and once you are able to solve it, but, you know, having them continuously innovate is a difficult thing, because a problem once solved will not be the same. Probably there would be another problem associated to it. So, and keeping Pipedrive at the base, how do define those strategic initiatives when we think of sales driven design?
I think for us, there's probably in two ways that we look at this. First, never forgetting the mission. Where did we came from and why are we here to help customers, which is mostly to drive efficiency and still be accessible to our customers. So that's one part that we never want to miss. And the other one is listening to our customers in order to help develop our system further, in order to really set a tone on their day-to-days. So when we look at Pipedrive and where we go next, it's really hard to go next without AI, right? So definitely it's something that Pipedrive has been developing, and it's continuously part of our strategy for next year. But the way that we want to look at this is how to drive efficiency. We're talking about repetitive tasks. We're talking about increasing effectiveness on their outreach. We're talking about helping sales team to save more time. And by doing that, of course, we're talking about workflow automations. We're talking about lead segmentation, lead scoring, to help them drive decisions to those customers and them knowing where to go and how to go. Basically, what we always focus on, smarter decisions, right? Work hard but intelligently in that regard. So the way that we see it is definitely using AI by helping save time on not repeating the same tasks on a day-to-day.
Yes.
Because as you said, sales is not an easy job. So we want to make sure that our teams are focusing on building those customer relationships.
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. And you talked about innovation and automation. And specifically when we talk about innovations, automation cannot be left behind. Automation in sales is a fascinating and sometimes very polarizing topic in many ways. It represents the future of sales, allowing sales teams to achieve more in less time that you discussed upon. However, the question raises, how much automation is too much, especially when it comes to maintaining genuine human relationships with customers. Probably in your view, how can sales team use automation strategically to enhance their meaningful human connections? We are bombarded with so many emails, so many phone calls, but how does probably a platform help us to stay relevant and stay more human, in that aspect?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think AI comes to work in combination with your seller, with your human being, right? It doesn't
Right.
come to replace. That's at least my perspective. And I think
True.
that's for me the most important thing is determining where AI can help you and those automations can help you save time. I think that's the part that you want to make sure that you define. That is one piece, it's saving time and use workflow automations to do that, because simultaneously you're solving the other part, that is building customer relationships. That's where your people need to be focusing, and that's where you want to make sure that it's really clear. Basically, it's the water and the oil that we always say. While doing that, you just wanted to identify, for example, you're talking to customers, you want to make sure that you prioritize or you know how to prioritize. You'll use lead scoring and you'll use, for example, workflow automations that will determine lead scoring is X. So in that case, my prioritization in that it's actually low versus the other one that the lead scoring is high. Then you can create activities for you that it kind of serves, okay, this is the one that I mostly need to give priority versus the other ones. So that's
Right.
that's a way that you can look at workflow automations. The other part is you still want to imagine there's a contract renewal around the corner. You can actually use workflow automations to send a specific type of email without you having to do that. And you, as a seller, you can use that time to call that customer and say, "Hey, the contract is about to renew. Let's discuss the conditions." But at the same time, you already did a reminder or send a reminder to that customer that it's about to happen. So you're not
Right.
spending time on writing that email, looking at the contract renew date to be able to send. And that's just an example of so many daily tasks that come in from for sellers that you can definitely automate in your journey without losing the perspective of, hey, there's automation and there's AI that can leverage and make it more powerful. But at the same time, you still have other responsibilities, and your main responsibility is trust and building that relationship with your customers.
Absolutely true. And you rightly mentioned that AI is there to help. It is not a
Hmm.
way to, it is not there to, it's not a threat. It's,
Yeah,
we all have to, welcome it with the open hearts, probably I would say.
yeah.
Uh, while these skills, on the advanced automation that we talked, that AI can help, or any automation, what do you think are the major, qualities salespeople should focus on, in your opinion, to stay relevant and stand out? Why I'm saying it, like, especially when we are doing cold calls, especially when we are, writing cold emails, it becomes very difficult.
Hmm.
It's an easy getaway. People don't respond. People, it's not that they don't want to respond. It's just that probably the timing is not right. So, what are the qualities, essential skills as a salespeople should imbibe or focus on while using the Pipedrive as a tech, or any CRM tech?
Yeah, I think one thing that probably people don't think that frequently is building rapport. I think the energy that you bring to any interaction with your customer, it's what's going to set the difference of them wanting to talk to you or not. So you want to
Right.
be that person, not overly energetic. You want to make sure that you read and sense the tone of who you are calling to, but definitely make sure that you are the one there to help and assist that customer. So you don't want to go straight into the point. You want to make sure that you build that willingness to talk to you. And the other part is active listening. I think that's one of the underrated soft skills that we don't hear that much, and we should definitely insist on. Is you want to hear about their pains, you want to hear about their challenges, you don't want to enter a conversation being the know-it-all, being the one that, oh, I have what it takes to solve your problems. What are their problems? Let's listen to them to then actually give recommendations and alternatives. So I think for me, the most important skill set is active listening, to then make sure that you give those recommendations, and then you'll use CRMs to help you build those recommendations to customers and so forth.
Right. No, absolutely right. And there has been so much discussion around building people first cultures.
Hmm.
Because all the businesses are supported, and people play a very important role. And it's particularly interesting to see that how it applies to sales. Especially sales in an industry where it's focused on targets, performance, numbers. Creating a culture that puts people first, both employees and the customers, can be a powerful approach. From your perspective, what are the key elements of creating a people first, or people first sales organizations, and how do you make sure that people are focused? The people focused approach also drives performance.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I love being a manager. It's thinking of people, it's thinking of their growth. I think there's two aspects that we always need to bring is first, do you believe on what you're selling? Are you passionate of what you're selling? Or it's just a matter that you're looking at your compensation by the end of the month and or quarter, whatever it is, and that's it. So I think when you hire people, I think it starts by that is the people that you hire. For me, they need to be passionate for what they're going to sell. And then leading by a people first sales organization, you always need to think of what is the type of culture that you want to set, first of all, have values, have strong values that you want to make sure that they are clear for everyone, not just as a department, but also as a company. For example, there's one thing that internally we always say, it's a one team. So I might have an individual target, and of course, in sales, you're really focusing on specific goals. But at the end of the day, it's one team, and their individual success will only represent the team's success. So one doesn't exist without the other.
Right.
So I think that's the first part when you're building up the culture. Then the other aspect is, as you've mentioned in the beginning, is it's a hard job being sales, especially because every day is a new day. Every month is a new month, and it never counts towards what you did before, unless you're doing right a review or kind of a self-assessment of who you are and what you've done. But you always go on a clean slate, and for you it's repetitive because you're always starting from scratch. So I think the well-being is a really important part when you're building those teams, and the high performance teams is, yes, we have goals and we have targets, but how can I ensure my team is well? How can I ensure that they take their PTOs? How can I ensure that they are fairly compensated? So for me, that's one part that is really important for their success. And the other
Right.
aspect is their growth. So they have their own responsibilities and their daily goals and monthly goals and so on. But how can we coach and develop them to what they want to achieve? It doesn't mean that it's going to be within the time frame that they'd hope. And as long as we are transparent on how we see their development, that's how you set apart the type of teams that you're handling. So I think it's caring about who you have and caring about their growth, because at a certain point we were all individual contributors, we are still individual contributors, and even so you always have specific sets in your career that you want to make sure that you achieve. And for me, that's
Right.
a really important part, is growth, development, well-being, and having values for them to
True.
look after for.
Absolutely. And, probably 100% I agree with you. Another element is that, you rightly said that people need to be passionate about what they're doing.
Mhm.
And, sales guys, if they are not passionate
Yes.
about, or they don't believe in their own product, then there is a problem. If
Hmm.
you don't believe in something, you can't probably, sell it, or, you even talk about it. And coaching people, working with them, training with them, ensuring that they are winning, and whatever organizations or Pipedrive is doing to ensure that people win at their own goals. This is all good at a smaller scale. When
Yes.
the teams are small, but especially in your role when you manage the global teams, how do you do that? And probably I'll bring an automation aspect into it, because automation streamlines a lot of process for the sales team.
Hmm.
But these innovations can slightly improve or allow teams to focus more on high value interactions. However, when the company grows and often face challenges of maintaining strong personal relationships while scaling, which means probably from the cross border teams or the customers, what do you see, or where do you see innovations like AI, automations, or CRM at large, both supporting potentially and not complicating the long-term customer relationships?
Yeah, I think the first part is set up a process, set up what do you want your teams to follow, because that is going to determine, is is your team following up that process on a larger scale, right? Because once you have a structure, you can identify the ones that are top performers, the ones that need more help, and the ones that are average, can still be better, and we can still work with them. With the top performers, you want to replicate that success, right? So you want to make sure that not only you build those coaching sessions, but you also utilize the top performance to give that feedback and that knowledge to the rest of your team. So you don't focus just on the team leads, you don't focus just on myself or VPs to do that for them. You bring that culture of a team. The other part is using tools, because if you use a CRM, for example, if you have a set process, you can definitely report the ones that are following that process, the ones that don't, and then look at a conversion aspect. Who is converting faster, who is not converting at all, who's having some difficulties on the lifetime cycle of a customer. So then you can definitely have those conversations to grow them. The other aspect is use tools that can help score the customer interaction, right? So being able to coach effectively with your team leads and your team, but at the same time leverage AI to give you ideas of how the conversation went for. Of course, you'll always need to educate the AI to make sure that it's looking exactly at the type of structure that you'd said. For example, giving you here something that we use at Pipedrive. We have two frameworks when it comes to discoveries. We use ACE and we use Spiced. What we've done is we have a tool in which collects all of our customer communication, not email, interactions on meetings and calls and so on. We've embedded a playbook that is focusing on ACE and SPICE. And what they do is through AI, they give us a score. Okay, is that interaction according to that playbook or not? Of course, we'll always need to review. And in the beginning, while you're setting it up, you're still teaching the AI. But at a certain point, you can let go and then you can just make sure, okay, those are the scores that your team got. Who needs development? And then you combine it to the CRM. You bring it to the CRM to then, again, look at your conversion, look at your churn, look at your contractions, and play it against, is it a matter of coaching? Is it a matter of your team? Or is it a matter of the product that you're selling? Because it's not all on sales, right? It's all the data points that you need to look at that you can only do if you're using tools.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. And, why I'm saying this when I say I completely agree is as a sales, and I rely or I go with every salesperson, living on this planet Earth, that, they are always measured with the kind of results that they bring in. But nobody talks about the progresses or the progress that they are making, because every sales guy is different. Like, every other sales call is different. No sales call goes the same way. They learn from their own, and they learn when they are aware of. They know that these are the areas of improvement, and probably that is what also motivates them to do well. And if it is driven by the CRM can also give a lot of insights on the ability to improve the selling at a larger end. Okay. Perfect. Probably that answers. I had another question on the motivation. I had in my mind, but I think you covered the entire spectrum. Probably, I was about to ask you any golden words that you live by to create a supportive or high performance culture. I think you just answered that. But you want to add anything?
Uh, I'll just say have have a really clear strategy, really transparent. Don't hold off on what is important for you and your team. Consistently share where do you stand, how do you go and move forward, because that will definitely make them motivated to achieve a goal as a department, as a business. So be transparent in your strategy. I think that that takes a long way when it comes to sales teams.
Absolutely, absolutely. And moving on from the team per se to the global social media or probably
Hmm.
social selling. Social selling has really taken off. With influencers, with people going media frenzy, probably on the Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, uh, you know, and people and the salespeople are also leveraging these platforms. The real art is to use these platforms effectively. It does not require just good understanding of the medium, but also the sensitivity to build that relationship while selling, because trust is essential,
Hmm.
and and the potential is huge. So looking ahead, do you see social selling evolving, especially on the CRM space? And what would you say, to build genuine platforms from a third party application without risking the perception of overselling? Because
Yeah.
sometimes, as you we overdo everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when it comes to social selling, definitely has been evolved in the past few years. I think when you look at it, look more towards how it can help you determine who are you going to go after, right? I think instead of looking just on a messaging level, use it to do analysis on the types of customers you are looking for to give you more predictions than you currently have access. And I think that's what it takes the longer. I remember a year ago or so, everyone was sending tons and dozens of messages through LinkedIn, and the response rate was 0 to 1, which means that you're just wasting time because you haven't set your ICP ahead of time. And I think when it comes to social media and now leveraging AI, is having those predictions and analysis on the type of segments that really fit your service, that really fit your business. And I think that's where it starts coming, to avoid overselling, because otherwise you're just going after potential leads that really don't have anything to do with what you're looking for. So I think it's just looking at more advanced AI tools that can help predict, the type of segmentation, so that you are able then to do personalized outreach, looking at the types of, do you want to do generic cold outreach? Do you want to be specific on the industry and the verticals? What are your type of preferences? So I think that's where you start from.
I completely agree, but I have a little doubt on when we say that burning the bridges by unnecessarily shooting, not knowing your ICPs, not understanding that what would they really, and in this world we are just over bombarded with messages,
Hmm.
and AI is there to help, and it will take its own sweet time to
Yeah.
adapt, understand, and deliver meaningful results. In your opinion, what are the key innovations or strategic shift within the sales process that you think will shape the landscape in next few years?
I think the key innovations, it's really on an analysis basis. I think people are constantly lost on what does my data mean and what is exactly taking me to. And I think that's where AI can shape, and that's when new strategies will come along, is really define lead scoring, data driven in the sense of, enriching your data, having access to more of your customer information, but at the same time being real time. So you don't have to go and move forward. I think one of the problems that always come for is, for example, you're looking at leads and you have a specific company and you've already identified that's the CEO that I want to go after. In a matter of, let's say, a month, if the CEO changes, you might have the data already super old. And again,
Yeah.
manually, you'll need to go after and after. And I think that's where, the data comes in to help you. Once it's real time, you just get, okay, forget about this lead. Now you need to focus on the new CEO. And I think those type of help that will come in, to help just set the tone for new sales team for sales teams, in the future. So definitely rely on, a CRM to to collect all of that information.
Absolutely. I completely buy that in today's world, a CRM is a must if you are specifically
Hmm.
looking at the services or any other industry, because it gives you a lot of advantages. One, it analyzes a lot of data for you. It helps you to grow. It puts everything in one. From a pipeline creation to number of
Yeah.
calls to number of deals and it gives you an entire analysis of end to end. And it's fascinating and interesting to see that how this is evolving and will evolve with the AI. Before we wrap, I would like to hear you what excites you the most about the future of sales and the direction Pipedrive is headed in.
Oh, so many things. I'd say the part that excites me the most is how are you going to look at your current interactions with customers and having better analysis, having more scoring, being able to distinguish different journeys that you can do, and then use new channels, new sources for interacting with others. I think, for example, we know that in specific markets, there's tools that are more useful. For example, in Brazil, you need to have WhatsApp, and it's really fun to just being able to work with global markets and adjust to their own realities, but at the same time knowing, hey, what can I do? Which type of messages can I create to be on top of mind for my customers? And I think that personalization, while looking at reducing and making me more efficient, that's something that I'm super excited to see with Pipedrive and in the market as well.
I'm equally excited to understand that, if a platform can create a omni-channel which serves the world with their different preferences, it would be an amazing product to, see and work, work on it, because, we all work on the global teams. Perfect. And do you think that the world has understood the pricing barrier, or do you still think that the freebies versus the paid platforms is still a barrier for most of the CRM platforms, or probably at Pipedrive? What are your 2 cents on that?
I think it's about the value proposition, right? It's the return of your tools. As long as you are able to show the value, I think customers understand why does it need to be charged, right? For you to have a certain amount of features, it's impossible for Pipedrive, for example, to continue build something new, exciting, and useful for them if there's not a charge. I think it's just connecting to the value of what you're bringing. Because honestly, giving a product for free just for the sake of 2, 3 features, I'm not solving anything for them. I'm just saying, hey, you have a tool, but is that tool really efficient for them? Again, it would be completely against our mission. So my perspective is, as long as it's working and it's giving them exciting times ahead in sales, then it means that we're serving our purpose, instead of looking at a perspective, oh, I'll give you a freebie just for the sake of you coming in and selecting my tool.
And this is absolutely what I wanted to end the note, is that CRMs are here to stay, and people should invest in CRMs, because it really has an intrinsic value to the entire business. Yeah, perfect. All right, and that brings us today's end of today's episode. A huge thank you to you, Zahra, for joining us and sharing your valuable insights and the future of sales and the power of people first approach in a world which is increasingly tech driven. We truly appreciate your time, and it's been an inspiring conversations. Thank you to all our listeners for tuning in and being a part of MarTech community. And stay connected. Let's keep learning, and remember, we are here to help you succeed. Thank you so much.
We are signing off from this episode of Data Demand, but the journey doesn't end here. Stay tuned to MarTech 360 for more insights and strategies that can help you master the MarTech landscape.